2 years ago we set a strategy for our global company, which was to transform what was a Korean company operating globally into a global company which is headquartered in Korea. And what that means is that we were putting in local leadership, and most importantly we were moving the Cheil team from within the Samsung organization, where we've been very proud to be for about 30 odd years, to a different location. We're doing that very, very clearly so that we could bring new talent into the organization, that we could win non-Samsung business, that we could bring more talent into the organization, which would then help Samsung because it would work on Samsung. In many markets that's exactly where we've got to. So in London we're now not in the Samsung building, we're downtown London with an Englishman running that business. Same in New York, same in Paris, same in Beijing and in Bangkok and several other markets. In India, that is the plan, and probably that will happen sometime in 2012. The big problem we've had in India is the absolutely wonderful problem to have of the success of Samsung. So Samsung has grown exponentially within India. 2 years ago we had about 40 people managing the business here in Cheil, India. We now have over 100. So as Samsung is going and going and going and growing and growing and growing, we've had to keep pace with that change. So our emphasis has been very much on helping the client deal with that growth. I think in 2012 we now need to take a deep breath and think about how we can help Samsung grow further by improving our own offer, and that will involve moving from the Samsung building into our own premises. We've always been proud to be part of Samsung. I mean, the reality is that Cheil is a company which is quoted on the Korean Stock Exchange. Samsung have a significant shareholding in Cheil. They are an important part of our management, and certainly within Korea we operate very much as part of the Samsung team. But in order to grow our own business, it's important that we take a look at positioning Cheil within the advertising market globally, not within Samsung. You know, Samsung makes great electronic equipment, but they're not in the advertising business. We're in the advertising business, and we have to operate within the market that is ours, which is marketing communication. Consumer electronics is a highly competitive sector. But if you look at the brands which are operating there now and which are preeminent, there are some brands that probably didn't have that preeminence 10 years ago. Samsung's probably one of them. In many markets, you know, Samsung is a newcomer. And what Samsung has done is it's become very premium very quickly in markets, particularly like India. Brands that were there before in those markets have gone much quieter. Sony would be an example. Brands like Apple have come in and had a dynamic effect on the sector, particularly since the launch of iPhone. So it's a sector because of technology which is changing all the time. It's highly dynamic, and we run very fast to make sure that we're at the front end of that. India is an extraordinary market. It's its own place. It has a totally unique culture. But I would go further to say that it's not just one culture, it's several cultures within one country. And if you are involved in global marketing, it's terribly important to understand the nuances of those cultural dynamics. It's all well and good to say that one campaign can run globally. Sometimes it can. For example, we'll be doing a campaign for Samsung featuring our sponsorship of the London Olympics, and that can run globally. But there'll be a time when you want to sell a particular product to a particular market in a particular way, and that means that you have to understand the culture of the market you're operating in, and you have to understand how your brand fits into that. So in India we've done quite a lot of local advertising too, which mixes with the global advertising, and that I think has really propelled the acceptance of Samsung within the Indian market to be a loved brand. The communication has to be relevant for the Indian target market, and sometimes there will be a global piece where we can look at it and think that's absolutely fine, that will work in India, that will work in China, that will work in all markets. But sometimes you think this just terms of pure execution, won't work in India. So we either have to, if it's a great piece, we may have to remake it for the Indian market, or sometimes we'll just take what is the simplest option and start again and develop and originate something which is absolutely appropriate for here. I never talk about billing because, to be honest, as far as I'm concerned, the billing is the client's money. It's the money that the client spends on advertising, and they pay us a sum of money in terms of revenue. So we've experienced very, very healthy growth in our Indian office. As I say, we've expanded from probably under 40 people to over 100 people in the last 2 years. So you can imagine the revenue is probably gone up in the same proportion. Online, the whole world of online is increasingly important. I think here in India, there's a little way to go. I think India is almost divided between urban India and rural India, and I think urban India has a lot in common with a lot of other markets in the West and in other parts of Asia, and certainly use of broadband is rapidly increasing here in India, so we take note of that. I think what will happen once you get to a certain level of penetration where it becomes near universal, as it is in Korea, for example, or in Western Europe or North America, then increasingly we'll be looking at online and retail working together as the bedrock of our communication activity. So historically, we tended to start with a 30-second TV piece, and then we would take the message or the communication or the creative element from that 30-second and then put it online or put it into a poster site or put it everywhere else. Now I think we'll be increasingly looking at retail and online and starting from there, and then every now and again when you have peaks of activity for a new product launch, you'll be going above the line onto broadcast and onto print. So we need to change the way that we think, because what happened before is we were either interrupting people at home on TV, trying to engage with them rather than interrupt them rudely. But now what we're talking about is consumers electing of their own free will to spend time with the brand. And if you elect to spend time with the brand online, or you elect to spend time with the brand in retail, then we as the brand marketeers have to understand that is a change dynamic and talk to people in a different way. We have 12 markets which we identify as being absolutely key. Within those 12 markets, India is very, 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 very important. We have enormous business in Western Europe, taken as a whole. We have a very, very strong business in North America, but certainly we're growing our business in Brazil, we're growing our business in Russia, we're growing our business in India. It's already very substantial in China. So I would say that of the growth markets, India is behind China, but not very far. I think that 2012 is going to be a difficult year. We're still forecasting growth, and I think that we have enough markets within our network of 30 offices to help us achieve that growth. But I do think that in Western Europe as a whole and in North America, there will be some issues. How that impacts on Asia depends entirely, I think, on those markets which are export driven. And if they're export driven on goods going into those troubled markets, then I think that there can be some worrying signs coming. I think India is still focused very much on its own internal market. So I think India, funnily enough, is a market which depends less than China does on export driven economy. And so I would say that India may weather the storm rather better. Consolidation, no, as I say, we're still planning for growth, and we're still planning to invest in the market. We're still looking for acquisitions in major markets.
I was just going to ask you that. Yeah. In India, any plans of acquisition?
There might well be, but first and foremost, we've only recently supported the launch of B&B in Mumbai. It's in partnership with Madison Group. And I'd like to see how the combination of the B&B brand in Mumbai and the Cheil brand here in Delhi can work together in terms of our group offer in the Indian marketplace. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. We'll analyse the results, and it may well be that we would acquire. But right now, it's not a market that I'm thinking acquisition. It was a treat, really. I was invited to come to Adasia to take part in a panel discussion. I think it took me about 30 seconds to decide to say yes. I never need any excuse to come to India. And the great thing for me this time is I brought my wife.
Okay.
She's never been to India before, so she's having the full Indian experience. So for me, coming to India is like an injection of energy. Look around. I mean, this is a great list of speakers, people giving good insights, and I think to a good audience too. So it's well appreciated. Be brave. It's one of the things I talked about in our panel, and one of the things which I worry about in some Asian markets where there is a decided hierarchy. And one of the things I think we have to do is to break down that hierarchy to people of voice. And not the kind of voice which says, you're my boss, I agree with you. It's about saying, you've got a great idea there, you live in this world probably more than I do, I have to listen to you, it's imperative that I listen to you, because if I don't listen to you, our brand's going to suffer. So be brave.